The Snow Woman. This is a story about a cold land in the north. Many, many years ago, there was a small village deep in the rugged mountains. In this village, an old lumberjack named Mosaku and a young lumberjack named Minokichi lived together. It looks like a snowstorm will be coming this evening. Yes, let's go into the mountain earlier than usual. Mosaku, the father, and Minokichi, the son, lived as lumberjacks, but in the winter, when the mountains were covered with snow, they would go off with their guns to hunt. The two climbed the hills and crossed the valley and went deep into the mountain. But that day, there was not a single pheasant nor a single deer. This is strange. What could have happened? Well, I suppose there are days like this. The two went deeper and deeper into the mountains, looking for prey. This doesn't look good. It's begun to snow. Pa, we need to get home at once. No, it looks like we're too late. Just then, Mosaku remembered that there was a cabin not far away. Yes, that's it. I remember there's a cabin used by lumberjacks not far away. Let's go there for the time being, to wait for the snow to let up. That's it. That's the lumberjack's cabin. Pa, we're almost there. Having found the lumberjack's cabin, the two hurried indoors and began a fire by putting logs in the hearth. The snow's getting heavier. Come, Minokichi, you need to lie down and get some rest. Pa, you rest. I'll watch the fire to make sure it doesn't go out. The two talked for a while, warming themselves at the hearth. But they gradually became sleepy, as the day had been a tiring one. Eventually, one and then the other had fallen asleep. After a while, huh? It's so cold. Minokichi awoke to the cold wind that blew in from the gap in the door to the cabin. The fire that had been burning in the hearth had gone out. Thought it was cold. The fire's gone out. Hey, Pa! Minokichi spoke to Mosaku for no particular reason, but there was no answer. Minokichi became worried about Mosaku and looked towards where he was sleeping. Ah! There was a woman wearing white cloth where Mosaku was resting. The woman brought her mouth close to Mosaku's face and blew white, icy breath on Mosaku. Mosaku's body froze as Minokichi looked on. That woman! Minokichi was so alarmed, he could not move. woman in the white cloth, speechless in front of Minokichi, who could not move, blew the breath of ice that shined coldly on Mosaku. Eventually, Mosaku's body had frozen completely white because of the breath from the woman. Ah! Minokichi was so afraid, all he could do was scream. The woman who had frozen Mosaku turned slowly and approached Minokichi without a word. The woman in the white cloth, who walked without a sound, came to where Minokichi lay and looked into his face. Ah! Is she going to freeze me like she froze Pa? Minokichi was so afraid, he began to shudder. Just then, the woman whispered to Minokichi in a voice that was transparent like ice. You are still young. The fire of life is shining beautifully in you. I will not take your life tonight. But you must speak to none about this. If you speak to anyone, I will freeze your beautiful life. Minokichi heard the woman's words as he lost consciousness. Eventually, Minokichi fell into a deep, deep sleep. What? When next Minokichi came to, it was already morning. The snow that was so heavy the night before had let up. The inside of the lumberjack's cabin had a thin layer of snow from the snow that blew in the gap in the door. But the woman in the white cloth was nowhere to be seen in the room. Minokichi thought that perhaps what he had seen the night before had been a dream, but Minokichi realized that something was wrong with Mosaku, who was sleeping next to him. Pa! He ran to Mosaku in a hurry, but Mosaku's body was pure white, as if it were frozen. Pa! Pa! Minokichi shook Mosaku's body, but Mosaku would not answer. Mosaku had frozen and died. Ever since, Minokichi became very quiet and would not talk much. Whenever people asked about the night of the snowstorm, he would not answer. The winter passed, the summer passed, and autumn arrived, but Minokichi would not go into the mountains. He tilled the field all by himself and lived a lonely life. And then the winter came again to envelop the mountain in snow. It was on one such snowy night. Minokichi was all by himself at home when he heard someone knocking on the door. Knock, 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 knock. Who is this at this time of the night? Wait, I'll open the door. Minokichi peeked outside the door saying this. There he found a beautiful young woman with skin as white as snow, standing in the heavy snow. I am a traveler. I have lost my way. Please, allow me to stay for just one night. Minokichi, flustered by this sudden appearance of a beautiful woman, beckoned the woman into his home. With this snow, you must have been very cold. Come in. There's nothing much, but eat something warm." "Thank you, but I find eating warm things difficult." "I see. You don't like your food too hot. Your tongue's sensitive to heat, is it?" "I'm sorry." With the apologetic woman in front of him, Minokichi's face just kept turning red. The young woman said her name was Oyuki. She said her mother had died and she was left all alone and was leaving her village. Hearing her story, Minokichi decided to allow her to stay in his home until the heavy snows stopped. A day passed, 2 days passed, and eventually the two began to fall in love and became man and wife. Minokichi, who married Oyuki, was full of happiness. He had spoken to none after that day in the snow, but after he married Oyuki, he began to smile again. "It's all because of Oyuki." The two were blessed with 5 children and were so good to each other, the villagers were even envious, and they worked very hard. For Minokichi, who had lost his father, those days were blessed indeed. But there was something strange. Many years had passed since Oyuki came to Minokichi's house, but she remained young and beautiful. Years passed, and one year, on a very, very cold, snowy night, after the children had gone to bed, watching Oyuki, who was mending clothes, Minokichi remembered many things. He remembered the day he first met Oyuki. He remembered the days of happiness, blessed with 5 children. He remembered the frightening night of the snowstorm when Mosaku froze to death. Come to think of it, that night was a night with heavy snow, like this. For no particular reason, Minokichi started to talk to Oyuki, who silently kept on sewing. He talked about how his father had frozen because of the cold breath of the woman in the white cloth. "Didn't you make a promise with that snow woman?" "Huh?" Minokichi could not but be surprised by Oyuki's words. "I told you that I would freeze your life if you told the story of that night to anyone. I am the snow woman of that night. But when I think of the children, I cannot kill you. I am leaving. Please take care of the children." People still say that there is a snow woman in the winter mountains up north. They say that the snow woman, perhaps because she cannot forget the kind Minokichi, or perhaps because she is thinking about the children she left behind, makes a sad windy sound as she moves about in the snowy mountains. The end.